podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition that they may have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professional for any such conditions. Hello and welcome to Mind Body Luminosity, the podcast where we dive into the realms of health and wellness to equip you with the tools you need to live a healthy and vibrant life. I'm your host, Dr. Holly Kendra, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this journey towards optimal well-being. Today is our final podcast of season 1, and we have a lovely guest with us today, one more to round out the first season, because I wanted to talk to you all today about a topic that I think is really, really important in the health and wellness realm these days. So today I brought with us Kim Cook. She is a dear friend of mine and an avid advocate for wellness, and so much so that she actually has been doing training to become a nutritional therapist. So, Kim, I want to welcome you to the podcast and then allow you to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk all things wellness with you. I know we've had some good times talking about wellness together, and I appreciate you letting me be here today.
Mm-hmm.
So, things kind of took off a couple years ago in my nutritional journey. So I did graduate from Western Michigan University with a degree in exercise science. And I've always, my go-to has always been fitness, exercise. Exercise can take care of anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We talked a lot about exercise on last week's podcast. So if anybody wants to hear more about exercise, I invite you to revisit last week's podcast that we did with personal trainer Lindsay Ledyard.
Yeah,
But,
perfect.
Go ahead.
So exercise has incredible benefits. It's our bodies were meant to move, and we need to incorporate movement in our life on a daily basis. So I used to teach fitness classes, and I am now currently a cardiac and pulmonary rehab therapist at Trinity Health. And so exercise is a huge component of the patient's life, my family's life. But things kind of just, as you get older, things change a little bit. And I found that I was exercising like 7 days a week, and things were just changing a little bit. And so that was one reason why I decided to dive a little bit deeper. The big change for me was my dad was diagnosed with dementia, and I could not figure this one out. My dad was very energetic. He exercised all the time. He ate very well. I mean, he loved his sugar. Don't we all love our treats?
Right.
But he was just happy, a go-getter, and I could not understand this diagnosis of dementia. And so watching him struggle and go through this, I was like, I need to know more. And I just started diving into what's going on, what causes dementia, how does this happen? And I just went down a rabbit hole. And then I went even further. And so I am currently in my class. I'm studying to be a nutritional therapy practitioner because food heals, food is medicine. Mm-hmm. And along with exercise, nutrition is a huge, huge component of our health and longevity.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, I've always loved your story because it's so important to take these things that are, that are a part of our lives and dive into them to learn more. Mm-hmm. And that's, so many people don't take that opportunity to learn, and lifelong learning is really important. And I mean, that's part of what we're here to do, in my belief. Like, we're here to learn, we're here to grow.
Yes.
And so I do think that nutritional health and wellness is something that is not educated on enough in the general sphere. And so any way that we can help share that information, I think is really important and beneficial.
Yes, it's huge. And there's so much dogma out there regarding like how to eat, like carnivore, or are you vegan, or are you, keto? It's so
The diet industry is
specific.
pervasive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that way. We
Right.
have to keep it simple. So one thing that we both love, and we're going to dive into this with more nutrition, but metabolic health. So we take the food and the light and bring it into our bodies. The outside world comes inside, and that is how we get our energy. So the nutrition that's coming in is, going deep into our cells, and it turns into what we call ATP, which is the energy. So how we live our life, how we have the energy to carry on day to day. And there are so many factors that play into that. And if, my favorite little guys, I remember this from like biology in high school, but those little mighty mitochondria, it basically comes down to that food coming in, that energy, that light coming in, how those mitochondria make our energy.
Right.
And
right.
if those mitochondria are not healthy and they're not getting the nutrients they need, we suffer.
Well, and it goes to, cellular, like all of our cells too. I heard the phrase, you are what you eat again the other day. And, it's so true. And we don't think about it enough. That phrase gets tossed around a lot, but, the rate at which our cells regenerate each other or slough off and then we grow new cells. I mean, it's happening all day and we don't even think about it. We don't even realize it. But you literally are. I mean, what you're taking in is what becomes your body.
Yeah.
That's the building blocks for the new different cells that your body makes.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah.
And, there's so much craziness out there when it comes to diet and exercise and, all the plans and what people are just so confused. And we need to break it down to like simple elements of life. Like, how is your sleep? How is your movement? How is your stress level? Which, living in today's world with everything going on, we really need to dive into stress. How is, your, of course, nutrition? How is your temperature fluctuation? We never talk about, like, our bodies do really well between hot and cold. So there's so many aspects to keeping us on the right path, and we don't have to make it complicated. Go to bed early. It sounds cliche, but getting that sleep is huge. It's so important for our body and our cells and our mitochondria because that's when we rejuvenate. That's when our brain gets cleaned out. I always say that's when the garbage man comes.
Exactly.
It just cleans itself out.
Yeah.
So metabolic health, there are some really important factors, and people don't. What is metabolic health? Like, why? How do I know if I'm struggling? So there are some information, some points that I want to point out. We all get labs done. If we're going to the doctor yearly, we get labs done, and you can go back and look at some of your blood work. Look at your triglycerides. What are your triglycerides? So basically, triglycerides is another way to see how much sugar is in your body. Our bodies take that excess glucose, that excess energy, and it has to do something with it. And so it turns it into, triglycerides, which is a fatty acid. And look at that level of triglycerides. If you're above 150, there's some metabolic health issues going on. I mean, optimally, I want you to be below 100. Look at your fasting glucose. There's so much out there with diabetes and pre-diabetics, and, these levels are all over the place. Ideally, you should be between 70 and 90 in your fasting blood glucose. Look at your blood pressure. If you're above 120/80, we got to do some things. There's some inflammation going on, and we want to bring that down. Look at your HDLs, the high density lipoproteins. Those are what we call the good cholesterol, but we want those to be higher because they're therapeutic. And, if you're a male, we want those to be above 40. If you're a female, we want those to be above 50. So go back and look at your blood work. One of my favorite ones, which is not common across the board, is fasting insulin. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I love to go down, is talking about insulin resistance.
And that's one that not a lot of providers will run on the regular, when they're running your annual labs or whatever. And yes, I did just do a little quotation fingers, but
Yeah.
because it varies so much by provider. And so if you're in there and you're wanting to get a really comprehensive look at your metabolic health and your overall health and wellness, really see if they'll run that fasting insulin, because it's another good marker.
Yeah, it's huge. And I worked with my provider for 2 years, and I was like, I want my fasting insulin, please. I want my and she was like, what? She finally ran it. And it was like an eye-opening marker. And I had to pat myself on the back because it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I've been doing the work. I've been doing the work for about 3 years now, really diving in. And so my fasting insulin was 5, which I was really happy about, because you want to be at least, 6 or below.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so those markers are things that you can go in and, where am I at metabolically? They are there. They are red flags. Even like waist circumference.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell, as the excess calories, the excess sugar coming in, it's going to be stored somewhere. And it's actually really important, because as we're just 24 hours a day being exposed to food and drinks and stuff like that, your body is incredible how it protects your organs, and it stores it as adipose tissue.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't want to store it in the organs, so it's storing it on the outside, which is so key. It's impressive that your body's protecting you. It's actually healthier to do that rather than store it in your organs.
Mm-hmm.
So metabolically, you want to go back and look at those labs and see where you're at. Where's the work that I can get done here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are things that you can, ask yourself, where am I at metabolically? So
yeah. And if you have these labs run and your provider doesn't really go over them with you or explain them to you, find somebody who will, because it's really important to have an understanding of, what is being tested and why it's being tested and what the results are. Because if you don't have that, knowledge is the first step to making any changes or to doing anything. You have to have the knowledge and the understanding. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have that knowledge, I encourage people to find that knowledge. Yes. Figure out what is being tested and why it's being tested, and what is functional versus optimal. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of primary care places these days go for functional. Like you're good. What's good. Or what is optimal? How can we make it better? Mm-hmm. I've been reading, I just finished today, Atomic Habits. And it's a phenomenal book for anybody who hasn't read it. I highly recommend reading Atomic Habits. And so it's all about 1% better. Mm-hmm. And so how can you make your nutritional status just 1% better every day? Yeah. And every moment. And we talked about this couple weeks ago. Every moment is a chance to make a choice.
Yeah, we have choices.
So
yeah. Exactly. So, going back to labs, at the Heart Center, we have patients that, fasting blood sugar is above 100, and, they get it done once a year. And, even, family members, you get it done once a year. Oh, you're fine. Everything's good. But no, it's creeping up, and every year it creeps up a little higher and nothing gets done. And these are red flags. These are warning signs mm-hmm. that things are changing. And, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, things just roll off, and you can go a little bit without sleep, and you can eat the junk. It's a wake-up call when you get 40, 45, 50, things change.
Right.
And you really have to wake up to, wow, what's going on?
And that's your chance too. When you see these numbers starting to change and creep up, mm-hmm. Even if your doc's like, oh yeah, you're good. the closer you get to the numbers for prediabetes, that's your opportunity to be making those changes so that you don't go down that road.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be taking metformin every day or giving yourself insulin injections every day, things like that, the time is now to start making those changes so that you don't have a harder road when you get that diagnosis.
So I want to share with you, I had the opportunity, so diving into like blood glucose and fasting insulin and things like that, I had the opportunity to wear a CGM.
And for those who are listening who don't know, a CGM is continuous glucose monitor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you put it on your arm and it monitors you through your phone of what your blood sugar trends are. Are you going up? Are you going down? And I still do it to this day. I check my blood sugar all the time. I don't know how I got started. I think it was just my curiosity of what my blood sugar was. And so on Amazon, you can just order your own kit. And I poke my fingers, and I know there's some people out there going, you don't have diabetes. Why are you doing that? But this is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you find out what causes your blood sugar to spike. So last summer, just going through some stressful things in life and enjoying summer fun. I love my chocolate. And in the month of July, I had an overabundance of some summer treats and chocolate and ice cream, I found by testing my own blood sugar that my fasting blood sugar was slowly rising. Like I was, maybe in the 80s, and then it would start to be like upper 80s. And then pretty soon my fasting was in the 90s. And it was literally just from the overconsumption of my chocolate ice cream treats and brownies, my favorite treats. But I noticed what was happening. And I was like, whoa, let's reel it in a little bit. By having that knowledge and those numbers in front of you, you can realize, wow, this makes a huge impact. And so August came and I'm like, okay, enough. It was fun, but let's reel it in. And now
summer's over.
Yeah. Now my fasting glucose, it rides in the 70s. And I know what spikes me. Like if I have a couple nights of poor night's sleep, my blood glucose is elevated. If I'm stressed, my blood glucose is elevated. It's not just always food.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, but knowing what your factors are, like for instance, if I eat white rice, my blood sugar will spike. Even if I eat it with, meat or, vegetables on top, some sort of cover up. And it spikes no matter what. So I honestly, I like rice, but I choose to not eat it as often because it's going to spike my blood sugar.
Yeah.
So knowing what spikes your blood sugar is huge.
Yeah.
It's such an important component of knowing your metabolic health and how your body's functioning. Because when you get those spikes, you are going to crash.
Yeah.
And then we get the crash. And then we get the headaches, we get the jittery, we get the irritability.
And the cravings.
The cravings. Because your body is trying to bring back more blood sugar. And so your brain's like, oh, I need food, I need food, I need food.
Right.
And you're not always reaching for those healthier choices. So,
the healthier choices sometimes are even harder to find too.
Yes.
The way that, society is these days, they make those prepackaged, snack foods so easy to grab. It's hard to stop at a gas station and find, an apple anymore. It's hard.
And this is a big one. So back in college, this is kind of just the information that we were given. Fat was bad. Low fat, fat-free is the way to go. Carbohydrates are the way to go. Snack all day long. You should be eating every couple hours. Keep your metabolism going. It's taken us in a direction that we do not want to go.
Yeah.
If you go back to earlier days, we didn't have these diseases, chronic diseases. We did not have diabetes. We did not have heart disease. We did not have cancer. We didn't, we don't have autoimmune. We didn't have, just mental health issues. Like there's just so much going on right now. If you go back to those earlier days, we would have 3 meals a day. I remember coming in, after playing after school and wanting to grab something. You'll spoil your dinner. Dinner's in like 30 minutes. We had 3 square meals a day. We didn't snack all day long. And that's where we're running into so many issues, because your blood sugar and your insulin. So when you eat, your blood sugar goes up because you're bringing in that energy. Blood sugar goes up. The pancreas releases insulin to take care of that glucose. So if we're eating all day long, we start out with coffee in the morning with some creamer and some sugar, and then we have a mid-morning snack, and then we have lunch, and then we have an afternoon snack, and then maybe we drink pop all the rest of the day. These are just examples, but your body is in a constant state of higher glucose and high insulin. So that's when we get that hyperinsulinemia. And that is what's really causing a lot of problems, inflammation. And so by these snacks, we're just constantly consuming that energy, which we don't always need. And that hyperinsulinemia is really damaging to the body. We have to go back to those days where, whether you eat breakfast or not, but you have your meal, you got to let those blood sugar levels come down. You got to let insulin do its job, and then the insulin comes down. And then you have your dinner. The snacking is really, really damaging.
For sure.
I mean, there are certain situations where people need snacks. I'm not talking, type 1 diabetics or, pregnancy. There's certain situations, of course.
Right.
Everybody's individual, and that's what I love, bio-individuality. But for the general population, we don't need these snacks all day long.
Well, and historically, it wasn't like that, either. Like way, way, way back in the day, like you would, you might eat one day and then you might have to wait a day or two before you get another meal,
Exactly.
So
the hunters and gatherers,
exactly.
Like they would fast and then they would get the big kill and they would feast. And that's another huge aspect of, our biology. We need time to rest.
Yeah.
Sleep, our digestive tract needs time to rest. Some people are having a 16-hour eating window. They start in the morning and then they're snacking late at night right before they go to bed. And then there's no time for that digestive system to rest. I love to recommend, if you can do it, a 12-hour digestive rest.
Right.
There is something called the migrating motor complex, which is my favorite new little concept. The migrating motor complex is like a little vacuum cleaner. And while you're resting, while there's no digestion going on, this little muscle contraction vacuum goes through and literally cleans like a snowplow, goes through your intestines and cleans everything out. It takes away the garbage. It takes away the bad cells. It takes away stuff that doesn't need to be in there. And we literally have our own vacuum cleaner that happens when we give it time to work. If we're constantly having food in our system and we're constantly digesting something, that migrating motor complex doesn't have time to go through and sweep.
Right.
So digestive rest is very, very important.
Especially, when we talk about inflammation, and digestive inflammation. If we need to decrease so many people have different digestive problems right now. We've got the rise of Crohn's, the rise of IBS, IBD, ulcerative colitis, all kinds of things. Acid reflux. You don't have a Prilosec deficiency. I'm telling you all this right now. You don't have a Prilosec deficiency. It's not a thing. No. So it's just, we have to optimize that digestive system so that you're actually digesting your food. And oftentimes what I see from people who have a lot of acid reflux is they don't have enough stomach acid.
Ding, 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 ding.
And they're taking Prilosec to decrease the stomach acid.
Even more.
And so then you have even less stomach acid.
Yes.
And it becomes this never-ending problem. And you were never meant to be on Prilosec for life. And so it makes it really hard for people to, you have to kind of retrain their brain to understand, the most optimal eating pattern for them. And, like you said, bioindividuality, everybody's different. No two people have the same eating pattern. No two people can eat the same foods.
Yes.
We talked a little bit a couple weeks ago when Dr. Amanda Blandford was in here about the Carroll food intolerance method and knowing which foods your body can eat and versus which foods somebody else, can't eat. And it helps with digestion. And then, you talk a little bit about fasting. There's all kinds of fasting. There's intermittent fasting. There's extended fasts. There's, all kinds of fasting. And I frequently talk about fasting to my clients. I think it's a really good thing to incorporate in some way, shape, or form because of that digestive rest.
Yeah.
And so, for people that are interested in fasting, definitely make sure you're doing it with somebody who knows what they're talking about fasting.
Yes.
Make sure you get with a naturopathic doctor that has had that education, or a nutrition therapist or a dietitian, somebody who knows about fasting, because it is beneficial to incorporate in some way, shape, or form. So
there's so many benefits to it, and it's not just a trend, which a lot of people think things are just trendy and they hop on the wagon. So I want to go back to digestion because in my class, that's something that just was eye-opening to me. I mean, especially in our high stress state. So digestion is a rest and digest situation. You don't want to be in a sympathetic nervous system. You do not want to be in a moment where that tiger is chasing you. That's what we call the fight or flight mode. You're in that high stress moment and you're trying to eat. A lot of times we're eating in the car, which I don't know. I can't do that going 80 down the highway. It's so stressful.
Hard to do on 31.
Yeah, 31 is the worst. So going back to just simpler times, when you're going to eat, you want to be in a very calm parasympathetic state. We call it rest and digest. You want to be in a very calm state. Taking some deep breaths before you eat, sitting down and admiring your plate of beautiful food that you just prepared, staying off your phones. I have some clients that eat in front of the TV and you're just not paying attention to what you're putting in your mouth. You're distracted emotionally by what's going on the television. You instantly can go in that stress state. A huge eye-opener for me too is chewing. And we talk about that hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Our stressful life, medications, antibiotics, there's so many things that can decrease the hydrochloric acid in our stomach. But chewing, so carbohydrates begin digesting in your mouth. The saliva has enzymes in it. So as you're chewing, that is the first step of breaking down food. So mentally, the first step, being in a parasympathetic, calm state, chewing your food. It's incredible how you take a bite and you're already looking for the next bite, and you've chewed that bite probably 4 or 5 times, and you're swallowing large chunks of food. Our body is not meant to digest these large chunks of food, and if you have low stomach acid on top of that, you're going to have digestive issues from the get-go. So sitting down, taking some deep breaths, admiring your food, being in that calm state. Don't eat in front of the TV. Try not to eat in the car, and try not to be in a rush state. I know, getting kids out to school in the morning, sometimes they don't want to get out of bed, and so you're shoving a waffle in their mouth as they're heading out the door. We really need to get back to practicing gratitude when we eat and admiring our food and breathing and chewing our food. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but I laugh because sometimes at the dinner table, I'm like telling my husband, chew that bite between 20 and 30 times. Like we're literally supposed to chew it down to a very thin paste. And we're like, this is a long time. It's really hard to do.
Right.
But you're swallowing the food in a very ideal state where your body's like, I can do this, I can digest it. And then it moves on to the small intestine and things work properly. So step 1 of eating and the digestive process begins in the brain in the chewing. And we don't even pay attention to that.
You're so true. 100%.
It's just wolfing it down. And it's just because we're in such a fast-paced, busy, stressed out world.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I talk to people often about stress and rest and digest. And I call it rest, digest, and heal. Because if you're not in that state of rest and digest, nothing is working optimally. I mean, it says it in the name, rest and digest. And so automatically you can flip to, okay, well, if you're in that stress state, that, high sympathetic state where it's fight or flight, you're not digesting. I mean, digestion is not happening. The body was not made to digest food in a stressed state. And that's, one of the core principles of bioregulatory medicine and naturopathic medicine is digestion.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to, we have a lot of digestive problems.
We sure do.
For a lot of reasons. And stress is a big one, and it doesn't get talked about enough.
No.
Not enough.
No, because if you're in that stressed out sympathetic state where you go back years and hundreds of years ago, your body thinks they always say fighting a tiger. It's just that phrase. But that blood flow is going to go to different...
It goes to the big muscles.
Yeah.
Your thighs and everything, so you can run away from the tiger.
And it's not
going to the digestive system.
No. And when you learn biology and how things are supposed to work, you're like, what the heck? It's so normal, and it's so, it makes sense. And we just are so far away from that. And that, the eating all day long with those little meals and those snacks in between meals. And, our body is just working so hard, so hard. And we get this chronic inflammation, okay, let's just go there.
Yep.
The standard American diet, a lot of it is not even food.
Yep. It's true.
It's not food. And it's quick. It's chemicals. It's pesticides. Our body doesn't know what to do with that stuff. We don't know what to do with the chemicals, and the diet pops and the diet.
The fake sugars. The fake sugars make, circling back around to that glucose and that insulin resistance, the fake sugars is just tricking your body into thinking that it's getting sugar, and then it's not getting sugar. So it still wants sugar.
It's looking for that energy.
It's still looking for that sugar. And so then you want more and more and more. And it's just never-ending cycle.
So
and that's why I'm
hard.
so against anything diet or, sugar-free, because it's all fake.
It's chemicals. Yeah. And, we need to, there's so much to learn in history. We need to go back to my favorite way to describe how to eat is one ingredient foods. There's reasons to go down the aisle. You want to get your olive oil and maybe people laugh, but your sardines in the can. But, one ingredient foods, you look at a tomato, you look at an apple, you look at an avocado, you look at a piece of broccoli. And I know fruits and vegetables and everybody's like, ew, but they're there for a reason. There's no label. If you go into the aisle and you pick up a box of crackers, it's a paragraph. And half the time we don't know what any of that stuff is. And that's coming in, it's causing inflammation, digestive issues. You're not absorbing the nutrients that you need. So if you can base your life, your nutrition meal plan on one ingredient foods, an egg, a steak, and people freak out now because I don't know how steak got such a bad rap, or burger, lean meat. We've just snowballed, and everybody's so afraid to eat meat. And, we need protein. Our body is based on all of these building blocks that these amino acids give us. So protein is broken down to amino acids, which we have tissue repair, we have cell renewal, we have our hair, our skin, so much is reliant on protein. So looking at your cellular life, your cellular nutrient needs, they need antioxidants, the colorful foods. We need the omega-3 fats. Our cell membrane is made, it needs these fatty acids to maintain that cell membrane. You have to look at what our biology needs. And, looking at that bag of cheese curls, which they might be really good in the moment, there's really nothing that's going to help you biology-wise to be healthy and nutritious and strong and energetic. So, going back, the berries, the nuts, the seeds, the green leafy vegetables, like, our moms always told us, eat your vegetables. I used to cover up my frozen, well, they were frozen at one. My mom used to make frozen peas, and that was my vegetable, and I used to cover it up with my napkin because they made me gag. So bio-individual,
Right.
if you can find those colorful fruits and vegetables and one ingredient foods that serve you, that's what you should be eating.
100%.
Yeah, it's simple, and we try to make it so complicated, and I just wish we could all remember how things were back a long time ago with history, and we got to get back to, with some new modern twists and stuff, but I mean, getting back to what our biology requires.
Yeah.
It's so important.
100%. And it, I think, with the advent of the food pyramid and the healthy plate pyramid, but not pyramid, a plate or whatever they have now.
Yeah, the My Plate.
Yeah. Like all of those, I look at them and I was like, well, they're not balanced and they're not bio-individual. And so, you can use them as a guideline. I don't even reference the pyramid anymore because it's so upside down. But you can use them as a guideline, but, talk to somebody who is going to, like a nutritionist or like a naturopathic doctor or, a dietitian, somebody that can sit down with you and figure out what is going to be optimal for your body.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily jump on the fad diets, the keto, the paleo, the what have you, because they may not be right for you.
And a lot of that stuff is processed. Just because it's like keto friendly, read the label.
Exactly. Keto is like real keto is about whole foods and single foods.
Yes.
That's really like if you were to get down to it and do keto the way keto was made to be, it's not about being, this Atkins bar is keto friendly. No, it's about eating real whole foods.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Like you can be vegan and still eating a very high processed diet. I mean, there's cashew cheese, I heard. So the process of taking a cashew nut and turning it into cheese, like that is processed. It might not have dairy in it, but we just have to really read the label and think about how this food was prepared. Like, how many steps did it go through to get to this point? And, I went down, for years, I used canola oil, I used vegetable oil, and, the whole seed oils. And that's a whole nother, subject matter, which we can tap on, but tap into seed oils. We've got soybean oil is probably the number one fat being consumed in America today. And if you look on your salad dressings, your mayonnaise, your crackers, your tortilla chips, and there's canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, cottonseed oil. Like there's so many oils that are so inflammatory, and they were developed. I want people to Google the process of how to make canola oil, the steps and the stuff that goes in it. I guess if we were to try to eat it in a couple steps earlier in the processing, the smell is horrific, and there's no way a human being would want to eat that. So these were developed to replace butter. Butter, because it was considered a saturated fat, was labeled horrible. Like, don't eat it, don't eat it. And so now we've developed these weird
margarine
spray.
I can't believe it's not butter. I can sure believe it's not butter.
No, it's not butter. Yeah. So, all these things have been developed to get us away from the real whole food. Grass-fed butter, it's got an amazing, healing components to it. And we've been so fear embedded. Don't eat that. I did a talk a couple months ago. It was February for Heart Month, and I did a talk, and I had a gentleman say, my doctor told me he's an older gentleman. He said, years ago, my doctor said, if you eat an egg, you will die.
Oh my goodness.
I just was like, oh my gosh. So yes, we need to be simple. We need to go back to those one ingredient foods. We need to decrease inflammation in the body. And it goes back to, good quality nutrition. Focus on your sleep. Try to stay away from those screens before you go to bed. Wind down. Get a wind down routine. And I don't mean wine. I mean winding down. Movement.
Read a book,
Yes,
like Atomic Habits.
Yeah, exactly.
I am not affiliated with Atomic Habits in any way, shape, or form. I
No.
just loved the book.
That's a good book. Yeah. So there are so many simple free things that you can do to change your health, metabolically, physically, mentally. So many things that you can do. You just need the education. And that's we got to get back to that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like part of the revolution I'm trying to build over here right now, because, getting the information out there is so important. And so, side plug for anybody wanting more information, be sure to follow my website, my Facebook and everything, because I've got a lot of informational content coming your way. And so, if you want to learn more on any of this, I mean, this is determinants of health. I mean, this is what I talk about with people is, you want to have all of these determinants of health in order. We can go back. Let me see if I can pull up this slide again for anybody who missed it. Okay, so here's our therapeutic order again. And remember, the bottom of that pyramid there is the determinants of health. Establish the foundations for optimal health. Make sure you're getting your sleep in. Make sure that you're eating nutritious foods for your body. Make sure you're moving your body every day. Make sure you're doing things that bring you joy and fill your cup. Make sure you're managing your stress effectively. And, if we can address the bottom of that pyramid there, then you don't need to worry so much about moving into the upper part of the pyramid that talks about synthetic symptom relief. That's drugs. We don't need drugs. We don't need surgeries if we can get the base of that pyramid in order. Our bodies were meant to take care of themselves.
And remarkably, they can. The human body can reverse so much if given the right tools.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I even, going back to my dad with dementia, I couldn't figure it out why he got it, but I see now there were some red flags. I've learned so much about how, neuroinflammation and where that comes from. There's research out there. There are doctors out there that are helping patients with dementia, Alzheimer's, and they're slowing it down. I mean, there's medications out there, but I don't think that they would have as much impact as, the foundations, the determinants of health. I think you can get more for taking care of yourself and, doing the right things rather than, taking that medication. There's a time and place for medication. But I think addressing the foundations, doing these things to heal your body is so impactful.
Yeah. Huge.
It's amazing what's coming. I think there's a lot more coming.
I agree. I think that people are hungry for change now. I think that the last few years have really kind of opened people's eyes to what is going on in our society these days. Not even just not healthcare alone, but everybody's starting to see that healthcare is a hot mess. And our healthcare system. But they're also starting to see how much we're surrounded by, how our food system is a mess.
It's broken.
And
the
schools are a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. And so there's a lot of people now that are starting to realize that it's up to us to start making some changes. Yeah. And, the way that we can start making that change is on a personal level. Start with yourself, and that's, something that I've been trying to do here.
Well,
start
we're
with myself.
Expert. We are the expert of ourself and our own body. We know how we feel. And if something's off.
And if your doctor's not listening to you, find somebody who will, because only you know what's going on in your body 100%. Yeah. So
absolutely. Yeah. You're the expert of you.
On that note, I would like to, so you have, where can people hear more from you or interact with you more? I know you have a good spot. So can you share that?
So I'm finishing up my class, my program, Nutritional Therapy Practitioner. So I I do have a Facebook group. It's called What's Up Wellness? Where can I find you? And we talk about all things wellness. I'm on Instagram at Kim Bennett Cook. You'll see a lot of my dogs. But
That's how we met. Just for
Yeah.
anybody who knows, like our dogs are like almost best friends at this point because they get so excited whenever they see each other walking around the neighborhood together.
Yeah,
So
they have a little mini play date every day in the neighborhood.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, so I do have, I see clients and I work individually with clients and help them find their way through the foundations. And I also, work in cardiac and pulmonary rehab. I don't want to see you there.
Right.
But yeah, just getting the word out on social media and doing community work. Just education is so needed right now. There's so much confusion on what you're supposed to do, even with movement. Like, am I supposed to do Pilates? Am I supposed to do yoga? Am I supposed to lift weights? Am I supposed to run marathons? Like, there's so much out there on movement that people get confused. Just simple. Keep things simple. Going for a walk, especially after dinner, is wonderful for your blood glucose control. But just moving throughout the day. They talk about, people go to the gym and work out really hard for an hour and then they sit the rest of the day. It's very good for you to do that, but you want to move throughout the day. So keep it simple. 1 ingredient foods, simple movement throughout the day, going for walks. If you can't get out from your desk.
When you drive to Meijer, park at the far end of the massive parking lot.
And get some steps
Meijer's
in.
looking out for our health here.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your steps in as you walk to the front door of Meijer.
And from side to side, if you forget your deodorant, you got to go way over there to get it. Yeah,
exactly.
So there is some new research coming out. A lot of Americans don't get enough steps in. And so just getting some movement in, getting some steps in, aim for 3,000 steps, aim for 5,000 steps, push it up to 7,000. So just throughout the day, move your body.
Yeah. And that's something that I talked about last week with Lindsay. I'd like to throw it out there. You don't see the deer out there doing Pilates or, the chipmunks doing HIIT workouts. They just move their bodies. They're just out in nature, moving their bodies every day. Yeah. And so, think like the animals and just move your body.
Yeah.
So it's a fun visual to think about deer doing Pilates. So
I'm sure that, that's a good one.
Well, yeah. So, I encourage you all to get on Facebook and follow Kim's group, What's Up Wellness. Where can I find you? You might see me chime in from time to time there. Kim, any last thoughts or, important things that you really want to share with our listeners today?
I just really want to emphasize there's so much you can do. Your body knows. Your body is remarkable and it can heal. If you're in a state where you're suffering, there are so many things that are simple and free that you can do to turn things around. And it doesn't have to be complicated. So I just encourage you to reach out and just get started. Every day, like you said, we have a choice to choose a healthier, cleaner option. And your body will respond very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all of your knowledge and your enthusiasm. And I hope that, we can keep this conversation going because I think it's a really valuable conversation to have.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Mind, Body, Luminosity. I hope you found our discussion enlightening and informative. And remember, your health is your greatest asset, and investing in it is key to living a fulfilling life. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, all the things. And please leave us comments. We do go back and review these comments, and we're starting to prepare for, upcoming seasons, upcoming episodes. And so I like to get as much information as I can to make this as valuable to our listeners as possible. And so I want to create content for you. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and stay healthy. Wishing you wellness and abundance until we meet again. The information provided in this podcast and supporting material is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practice of medicine or other professional healthcare service, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and any materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition that they may have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professional for any such conditions.